Good afternoon, brothers. My name is Nathan. All right, so we got two speakers I want to introduce tonight. Two of them are our very own senior residents. They've been very influential for my stay here at the barn. I'm sure they have for you guys as well. The first speaker I want to introduce is just someone who's always been there for me. You know what I mean? Someone who, if my leaders aren't here on the farm, I could go to and just connect with instantly. And that person is Lewis. So, Lewis, come on up here, man.
Right on. Thank you, Nathan. Welcome to evening, gentlemen. I'm Lewis. Well, I guess I'm going to tell my story. So I'll start off with, I was born in October 25th, 1988 in a small town called Farmington, New Mexico. So, the beginning of my childhood was okay. Families sat down, ate dinner, celebrated holidays together, birthdays, all that fun jazz until my parents got a divorce. And then things got kind of colorful. I seen domestic violence, I seen drug use, alcohol use. It was just really colorful until my mother finally settled down with my stepfather. And then things after that were okay. I was started playing football. Was kept my grades up, and just was okay there for a minute. And then after short while, he kind of just faded away from the family and stuff. So, I picked up skateboarding, dropped out of football, started skipping school. So my grades started slipping. And I just started mixing myself with the wrong crowd, got introduced to drugs and alcohol. And, from there, it was just downward spiral for me. But, I met my ex-wife and then finally sobered up, dropped out of school, got a job, nothing crazy or anything like that. Started working construction, started oil field. And then it was okay. We had kids, settled down, married. And then it wasn't until after my divorce, that's when things started taking a turn for me. I got more involved into, my addiction. And that led me down a downward spiral of, losing my job, losing everything that I had at one point. It was pretty epic for me. And I didn't know what to do or where to go. So I started burning bridges with my brothers and just my close friends. And eventually I burned enough bridges enough to move out of my own town that led me to homelessness, and which led me to traveling state to state, thinking I could pull myself out of a rut, because because I thought I had my job experiences in line and stuff like that. But after that, it was hard to do, being homeless, not having a stable home or anything like that. So, I just let that get the best of me. I put that in my mindset. That's where I was going to be. That's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I made it okay to be that way. I made it okay thinking that panhandling was a job, you know. So, and it wasn't long until I came into Utah and then kind of settled down, but got more involved into my addiction and stuff. And then I was in and out of hospitals, in and out of jail, and it just got to a point to where I was like, COVID happened, and I had nothing better to do in the world, so I checked myself into rehab, and I did good there for a while. I got a job, I got sober. I was sober for about 9 months, and it was a decent job. I was making a decent wage. And eventually, I just ran into some old friends, and it just right back in the instant, I was doing what I was doing again, same story. And then I took myself out of the, sober living, and just started living homeless again, because that was the mindset that I had. It was an easy out for me. And same thing. I just started reverting back to my old ways of being in the hospital and being okay with being homeless, being okay, in and out of jail. And then eventually I came here to Red Barn. Well, during that time, there was a change of events happened. I My ex-wife passed away, and then my kids were adopted by her family and stuff like that. My parents have passed away, so and my burned bridges with all my family. So the best bet for them was to move in with their parents or her parents. And, kind of thought about it. It didn't really hit me until, I came here and realized that, all I did was just run from like all my problems and everything like that. I never really came face to face with them, never really dealt with them until I actually came here to Red Barn. And it was crazy on how I came across Red Barn because I didn't know things like this existed. I didn't know therapeutics existed. I thought if you want to be in rehab or therapy, you would have to have money, stuff like that. So, you know, and once I found out that, Red Barn was free of charge and stuff like that, I was, since I'm not court ordered or anything like that, I just was gonna come here and see how it was. If I liked it, I could leave. And then I stayed for a while, and then I was like, all right, cool. The winter months are coming. I got a meal, I got a place to stay. So, you know, that was my mindset when I first got here. But that all changed when I, became a resident and actually got into leadership and crew leads and, those types of positions, knowing that, you know, that I had to show up, no matter what. And that's something that, helped me out a lot, is like knowing that I had to show up no matter what, no matter how I feel or, what I'm thinking, or, how bad things get. That was one of my things, is just showing up and, having that connection, having this connection that we have here at Red Barn, actually holding each other accountable. Because during the time, that whole time when I was running amok, I isolated. I was pretty much alone. I could be surrounded by a sea of people and I can isolate. And, having this connection here and actually being accountable for my actions and for the things that I do has actually helped me out a lot. So, and, I'm greatly appreciated for, this chance that I have at Red Barn. Yeah, that's my story.
You say that your favorite phase has been here at Red Barn, like your favorite, like most fun, most growth.
For me, would probably be my resident phase. At the time we had the the music session that Chris W used to put on and stuff like that. So I actually got to go off the farm and actually do that on Sundays. Got to spend more time in the gym, um, and I was in that crew leads position. I was in leadership, and actually figuring things out, and actually knowing that those at that phase was like that whole pivot for me, and that's what changed my stay here at Red Barn. So it was no longer a place to stay. It was no longer a place to chill out or anything like that. In the beginning, like I said, I was just pretty much doing time just scrape by for a minute, but now I'm here and I committed to a third year, so I'll be here for another year. Eduardo?
What's your plans at the Red Barn?
My plans after Red Barn, right now it's just to finish school, do my third year, get into school, and then I'll go from there.
What was one of the most challenging things that you've encountered here at Red Barn, and how did you push through it? And yeah, how did you push through it?
In particular, it's a month. My least favorite month of the year is April. Due to the fact that it was just a lot of personal things behind this month. And last year, I think, was the first time that I actually broke in the circle. And it was a talk that I actually sat down and had a conversation with Chris W about, and he guided me through a lot of situations throughout my stay here. Yeah, he really helped me out, with a lot of things. And, it's like I say, if you find those people, talk to them. You find those leaders and those mentors and stuff, the people that you look up to, I highly suggest that you talk to them, because, even though, you don't know how to navigate yourself right now, somebody else can give you an opinion and actually guide you and give you another perspective on things.
Looking back at your life, and your struggles and stuff, and how you felt during those times in the past, like when you look at your life today and your future, how do you feel about that, and what's it look like to you? Right?
I don't regret anything in my past or anything like that. You know, there's things I wish I could have said, but you know, they're best left unsaid. Because if it wasn't for those moments, you know, I wouldn't have a moment like this. I wouldn't have learned those lessons that, you know, I didn't learn. You know, and for my future, it looks like, you know, just trying to stay connected and trying to, you know, keep doing the best of me and that I can, you know, no matter what. Like I said, just keep showing up from day to day and time to time, no matter what I'm going through, you know, because things are only momentary and, you know, they're just going to pass by, you know, one way or another.
Have you found happiness here in being at Red Barn and then moving forward? Like, what's the funnest part about Red Barn?
Funnest part that I've actually started enjoying a lot is the connection, you know, actually knowing that each and every single one of you has a different personality, you know, everybody has a different approach. Everybody, you know, has their own style, you know, even though we all look uniform and everything like that, you know, there's always something in there that somebody tweaks up or something like that. And, you know, a lot of this goes back to, you know, me finding art and everything. You know, I'm really passionate about art and, you know, I always find art in anything and everything that I can. So
Knowing that you graduated and stuff, what do you want to do for school, do you know?
what school looks like for me right now is a toss up between culinary arts and if not, then architectural and engineering. Ethan.
Okay, so Lewis, I remember the first night when you became a leader and I was showing you how to close the house. And you said, man, you know, I didn't even think I was gonna stay 90 days. You thought you were just gonna try it and leave, right? But then you stuck around then and you keep sticking around. And then you decided to write your letter and commit. What made you commit to stay a third year?
What made me commit to a third year was the connection. You know, without that connection, I don't think I would have made it this far into this program. Secondly, was just, you know, to educate myself and actually, you know, show you that it is possible to actually stay a third year and actually get something out of it. You know, it's something, you know, you could push through no matter what, you know, no matter what's waiting for you out there, it's going to be waiting for you again, no matter what. So there's like, you know, because I know what's waiting out there for me if I was just to up and leave, you know, but knowing that it's still going to be out there, whether I want to choose it or not, I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
You may have just answered this question, but you're a walk-in. I don't know if everybody knows you're a walk-in. What's the biggest aspect or what's the biggest thing that is there one main thing that has kept you here for that?
One main thing that kept me here was probably accountability. Like I said, it's something I lacked for the longest time. It's something I lost. It's being confronted with, you know, my issues or my problems and something like that. You know, I always chose the easy way out by just running away from it. And actually being here and actually facing those problems and actually hearing who I am and what I've done, you know, to not myself, but to other individuals has actually been an eye opener for me because that's something I did struggle with. James.
So it's my understanding that like you've had some really good accomplishments. Like graduated high school, is that right? And like your diploma, you were clothing bay manager and leader, well, strength and leader and stuff, and then crew lead, you're also crew lead. So can you kind of share with us how that's really inspired you to just keep going on?
Knowing that I had all those positions and everything like that, you know, it was always cool to take a step back, you know, and lead from behind to actually know that, you know, I'm going to be giving up these positions to, you know, the younger individuals, showing them how I did it and what I've done and, you know, what helped me out in certain situations to pass that on and for them to grow on that and actually for them to pass that on. And you know it's never giving cycle or ongoing cycle of giving, you know, and it's like what they say here, if you want what you have, you have to give it away. So it's something that always stuck in my mind, like a lot of these little cliches that, you know, us older guys say and are all true, you know. Same thing as just making it to your pillow at night is pretty much, you know, just show up, you know. Toppy.
What's the advice, that feedback that you give to us and especially the younger brothers here in the house?
Some of the best feedback from me, like I said, is just show up no matter what you're going through, no matter, what your thoughts are, just show up. Talk to your leaders, if you don't know where to direct yourself or, where to guide yourself or, what you're going through, even your thought process. I mean, even voicing out, your opinions or your thoughts or something, finding those individuals that you can talk to, pull them aside and be like, hey, I'm feeling like this, or, so and said this, or I don't know how to go about this, there's always those people that can actually navigate you and actually direct you on where to go. Ruben?
When you look at yourself in the mirror today, what's the biggest difference you see versus when you first got here?
The biggest difference that I see of myself is that, I don't have to blame myself for the things that I've done in the past. It's something that I can actually let go of now. Something I can use as a building block instead of, using it as a failure, even though failure for us is pushing forward, and that's something that I could do from it now is actually learn from that, learn from where I failed and actually move on and keep pushing through.
So what's your passion that Red Barns helped you find to do another third year?
Just showing up, just being here for the younger generations, actually talking to the younger guys and, showing the interns that, I was at once at that point and that, a lot of us in colored shirts were at that point that, we all had these thoughts and everything like that. We all went through the same thing. And, it's just something, like I said, I like to see, it fills my cup every time I see someone, get across the bridge now and, get into their freshman phase or, the resident phase or get into crew lead positions and leadership positions, and that's one thing that like actually helps me and actually fulfills me. It's a cool thing to see, seeing the house grow up and seeing the changes within the house, Any other questions? Lucas?
A funny moment that you've had here that you will always remember.
It was one random night, we got off at the Bird, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the older guys know Jason and Chris W. Well, we were back here having a conversation and everything, and Jason was talking, and Chris made a joke about, his haircut, and Jason started laughing, and he shot milk out of his nose, and all I remember was Jason saying that it burned, and that was one of the best laughs I had in a long time. So that was actually one of those moments that is etched in my mind for a while, probably for a long time, forever. So, Leandro?
What is your favorite activity here?
I wouldn't call it an activity. Well, I guess you could. I like giving the haircuts, sitting in the barbershop, actually hanging out, giving haircuts, listening to music, having conversations, getting to know you guys on a different level and stuff. So, doing haircuts and, just walking around, I like to see you guys and stuff like that. From time to time, I'll go up to the clubhouse and sit down, watch TV with you guys for a minute or, shoot pool or, just jam out on the guitar, just do random activities around here. Just try to stay connected.
What's your most memorable event that you've been a part of? For instance, the 10K or the 5K if you've been a part of that, or the parade, one of those kind of events.
I'm gonna go with the boat trip. That was one of the most memorable ones because I hate water. I can't swim to save the life of me. So, it was cool actually going out there on the boat and everything like that. And, seeing the guys have fun and everything. And, I actually got out there on the tube and everything. So that was a pretty eventful moment for me, trying to get out of my comfort zone of, hating water.
All right, family. The next speaker we got, this is another leader in the house. This is someone that I personally look up to, someone I go to for advice. That's Isaac. So.
Hi, family. I'm Isaac. So, like I've done a lot of presentations and talked to a lot of people, but I don't think I've had as much anxiety as I've had the last 5 minutes up to right now. You know what I mean? I'm sitting there like, why do I got so much anxiety to talk to guys that I've probably had this same conversation with on the way to a pickup or just out of the blue, right? I don't know. It's a little weird, but so I was born June 29th, 1998. I was born at Davis Hospital, and within about 72 hours, after birth, I was in Colorado. Um, we moved to Colorado because my mom was hiding from my dad and my family on my dad's side. It was a very abusive relationship. My mom was in and out of addiction. My dad was going to prison, and it was just a recipe for disaster. So we moved to Colorado in a hope for escape, right? Um, my earliest memories are I just know that my mom struggled a lot, right? She was in and out of her addiction. I remember her always being gone, never being home, right? I always remember my sister more being my mom. I'm the youngest of five, and my sister and my brother would they take care of everything, right? Food, clothes, tuck you in at night, taught me how to brush my teeth, how to tie my shoes, right? And mom would come and go all the time. It was always a struggle to get her to stay longer than a day to get some sleep and for her to leave again for a couple months. After a while that went on, and you know, the public the public does what the public does, right? They always want what's best for everyone around them. So they intervened, and me and my siblings, we ended up going to foster care. I remember going there, and it was like, okay, now there's some structure. Now there's a home, right? Now there's something. As long as we're together, everything's all right. Don't really think twice about mom much. She was never really around. Um, the first foster home, it was all those horror stories that you hear, and everyone's like, it's not really like that. It was very abusive. My brother and sister, they always got the blunt end of the stick, as you could say, right? And they would always try to protect us. So after about a year in the first home or so, they split us up, and I remember, dang, that's the worst feeling, right? We're gonna be split. Mom's never gonna get us back. We're gone for good. And after about another year and a half, I remember starting to get visits with mom, and she was starting to get her stuff together. Like there was some hope, right? Like, yes. I remember my brother would tell me, we're gonna go home. Another Christmas would go by, another birthday. It's like, we're gonna go home. And eventually we went home. I remember one day they're like, hey, your mom's here to pick you up. And I didn't think twice about what it was that she was doing within that time. Like, for me, it was just resentment, right? Like, you just left us. You did what you've always done. So I didn't really care when she got us back, and my mom was doing good, and we were living in Greeley at this time, and before we were living in Denver. And that's when it really started for me. My older brother Timmy, he was like my right hand, you know. Anywhere he went, I went. He sagged his pants, I sagged my pants. If he was smoking weed, I wanted to find out what that was about, right? So I followed him around everywhere at a young age, and started getting in trouble very, very early. And my mom, she was always trying to rein us in. She was struggling, single mom, trying to stay clean, working 3 jobs, and I didn't care what she had to say. It was too late for all that. Even though I was very young, I remember having all this anger. Um, my brother and my sister were always on my head, right? They were mom and dad to me. And we are just living, doing our thing. And I started smoking weed at a very young age. I was about 9, and that's when I started hanging out with my brother and his friends a lot. And I started hearing about my family out here in Utah, my dad's side. I started hearing about my dad's gonna get out of prison and I want to meet him, all these things, right? And my mom says we're never gonna go back to Utah. And then one day, one of my brother's friends, he ended up getting shot and killed in our front yard. So we moved back to Utah. My mom said, I'm gonna pull my kids out of here before they end up in that situation. And we came here to live with my grandma, and she was the light. You know what I mean? She was the one that was grabbing us by our ear, dragging us into the room. She was whooping our butt. She was about the business. She worked on the base for the Air Force, and she just wanted what was best for her grandchildren. We never met her, but she didn't care. She had her foot in my butt the whole time, right? And my mom was still doing good, you know, and now I finally had some structure. It didn't matter what I was doing, who I was around. I ain't leaving the house. I want to act up, I'm getting pulled by my ear in front of everyone down the street, right? Like super humility, you know, and I'm about 11, 10 around this age, and that's when my mom has her first little hiccup, right? And she tells me we're gonna go move to Ogden with your dad's cousins, and that's the first time that I met them. And to me, it was like this was this side of the family that I just heard about and I loved and I envied, even though I didn't even know them, right? And I remember we moved to Ogden, and I had this whole reality of like this was my family, you know, and it changed my whole world. It went from doing all these little things with my brother and him trying to keep me at arm's length away to walking into a whole world of not looking up to the person that was the good neighbor, the firefighter. All of my cousins were just gang members with tattoos, guns, names in the street, right? And to me, that was what a man was when I met them. That was my role model, you know. This is who it needs to be, and this is who I'm gonna be. And so I started hanging out with all my cousins, and now my mom, she's going through her phase trying to get right, but now basically she's lost all of her kids to the streets, you know, like my sister's using, my brothers are. Only my oldest brother, he was the only one that would chase everyone around town. He didn't care where we were, who we were with. He'd come knocking, you know, every time. And so after a while, you know, like I started using hard drugs. So I was about 12 years old. And that was the first time I got locked up. Started stealing, go to DT, get out. And every time I went in, instead of being scared, it was like, yes, I got another badge. I'd come home and all my cousins would be like, that's your first one? Well, I'm on number 5. I'm on number 6. Where are you at? And to me, that was like fuel to my fire. Oh, I need to do more. You know, every time they closed the door on me and didn't let me in the room, all that I could think about was, how am I going to get in there? What can I do for them to respect me enough to get in there? I just wanted to belong, right? And then I meet my dad for the first time, you know, and I thought he was going to be the world. Reality was he was just like my cousins, but a whole lot worse, right? And it made me even look to that lifestyle even more. And my mom finally decided to move us out of Ogden and move us to Davis County, you know, to get right. And at that point, I didn't care. I was so far into it, I didn't listen to mom no more. I was always violating my probation, going back, doing 6 months, O&A, secure care, go away for a year, come back, and mom would be doing good. Everyone would be doing good. And me, I was just like, I'm the black sheep, right? Like, I got to do bad. This is who I I looked at, and this is who I need to be no matter what I do in my life. And it was just the same cycle, right? Turn my back on the ones that cared for me the most. You know, every time my mom told me to go to school, I didn't even care all the experiences I was missing out on. It was jump the fence, go down the street, go do whatever it was I was doing, you know. I was constantly hurting people. I was a liar. I was a manipulator. I was a thief. You know, I was a menace to everyone around me. And anytime somebody told me that, I told them they were wrong. But the reality was, I deserved everything that I had coming at those times. And everything that I really did deserve, that was peace and happiness, I turned my back on, you know. And I ended up getting locked up more and more, kicked out of school, expelled at like 13. You know, can't go to school, can't do nothing. So what does mom do? She's always chasing me around. You know, everyone starts getting their life right, and I'm the only one that's still in that lifestyle, hanging out with all my cousins and everyone because they're family, right? My loyalties to my family is what I told myself, and I tied my family to that lifestyle. And eventually, you know, I turned 18 years old, right? Finally off probation, terminated unsuccessfully, of course. They're like, we're gonna cut him off, and if he does it, he can go to the adult system. You know, now mom didn't have no reign over me. So after about, I'd say 3 months, it took between 3 to 5 months of me leaving home and just doing exactly all these things that I wanted to be booked into the Davis County Jail on 3 consecutive life sentences at the age of 18. I didn't care what anyone thought. The reality of the situation didn't mean anything to me until I was sitting right there and knowing that I was looking at the rest of my life in prison because of the lifestyle I wanted to live, you know? And even then at the beginning, yeah, it was daunting. but I was like, okay, this is what everyone talked about, right? But the reality was I was punishing all the people that cared about me. I was punishing myself and I didn't even see it, and while I was there, I didn't even take no time to do better. All I wanted to do was worse. All I did was tell myself, I'm going away for this long, so I'm gonna become the best version of this guy, so everyone knows what this guy is about. This false person, not the person that loved going hunting, fishing, liked crocheting, liked hanging out with his friends, playing Xbox. None of that existed. I told myself that wasn't me. This is me, right? And the whole time, all I did was just bury myself more and more, And I remember towards the end of 2017, I was walking down the hallway with Captain Butcher, and I was in Supermax at the time. And I asked someone to hand me a flyer off the wall in the hallway. It was for Red Barn Academy, right? It was just a little farm. I seen this little flyer, and it's like 2-year life skills academy, alternative for prison, change your life. I asked someone, hey, can you hand me that? And I remember till this day, someone handed me it, and everyone in the hallway laughed. All they did was laugh, right? And I was so mad, And the captain looks at me and he tells me, Isaac, the only way you're leaving this place is on a bus to prison or in a coffin. And for me, it was like, all right, added more fuel to my fire. Instead of using that to be like, I'm gonna do better. Watch me. All that I did was want to go back, and first thing I did was get in a fight. There goes another year. There goes 2 years. There goes 3 years. Never calling home, never caring that everybody missed me, right? It was all about me. I can just sit by myself for years and not even care or think twice, right? I would wake up and I would tell myself, you're never going home. Boom. Next day, same thing. What can I do to solidify this so it's easier down the road? And I remember when I reached out to Michael the first time in like about 2018, he answered the phone and he was like, I told him who I was, my situation, and he kept it real with me. He said, I'm gonna be honest with you. You don't have a snowball in hell's chance to come to my program. He's like, I don't even think I can accept you with the severity of your situation. He said, he told me, he said, he laughed and he said, but I believe in impossible things. He said, so write me. He says, no matter what goes on over the years, he's like, write me. Let me know you want to do something different. Let me know what you're doing. So I was like, okay. And I remember taking that flyer and putting it in a folder. And I was like, all right, maybe one day this thing will be that thing, right? But probably not. And I remember writing and calling over the years as I went through all my troubles in there. And he was always just like, oh, wow, you're calling again? Oh, you're writing? And then the leadership changes. And then Alan comes into the house and I call him and he's like, oh, well, yeah, you're on our prospective students. Like, okay, just keep writing us. And I remember I was sitting there in about 2020 and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And I remember laying in my bunk, just praying and hoping like that I could leave before I lose that last part of me that I loved growing up. That person that your mom wanted you to be when you were a child, right? And I just couldn't imagine what I was gonna do. I knew that everything was coming to an end. My reality was really setting in. I was seeing people come and go. The guys that I seen 4 years ago giving me that look and shaking their head and talking in the corner about this guy's gone, right? And it finally hit me. And I remember, what am I gonna do? And I went through my folder and I found, sure as crap, the flyer that they made in 2017. And I said, oh yeah, I stopped calling like a year and a half ago. Maybe I should call. And I called, and that's when Alan was like, well, if we're gonna do something, let's try to do it now. And Alan and Michael and the legal team and everyone, they fought for me tooth and nail, right? When the state told me no, we're not gonna let him go, we didn't take no for an answer. On my way into trial, they told me, what, we're gonna let you go to Red Barn Academy. We're gonna give you a chance. We're gonna give you this opportunity. And after a little over 5 years, I was able to come here. And I remember sitting with Ethan, telling him, hey, I'm going there. And he's like, oh, I'm going too. You know, in my mindset, getting a second chance, right? Like at life, truly, like everyone is the happiest. I still couldn't learn. My first conversation with Ethan was, hey, you got me, I got you, right? We got each other when we go there, you know? And when I came to the program, I remember walking out and there was Benny, Bell, and Anthony sitting there. I helped Benny write his letter to Red Barn. I remember him looking at the flyer and me talking to him about it. And he was telling me he was staff. And I was like, wow, this is wild, right? And then Nicholas was the program director. And I know him from before. He used to hang out with all my family. I used to try to yell at him and fight him for giving me the wrong clothes, right? And I'm like, wow, this place is actually doing something different. And I come here and it was like, for the first time, I felt safe, right? I didn't have to look over my shoulder. I didn't have to puff my chest out. I didn't have to worry about who I had to be to anybody. I came here and no one cared what I did. No one cared where I came from. All that they cared about was what I was doing. And it hit me like, dang, like this place is something different, right? And after a few days, I remember going to Anthony and I just told him, hey man, I don't deserve this place. There's too many people. Like, I don't want to be around no one. Like, I'll just go do this all this time in prison. Like, I don't even care, man. Like, I can't do this. And I remember Anthony telling me, no, man, you got this. Right? And I was like, okay, this is genuine what I felt from him. It was actual support, right? Like, I'll be there in the morning if you need me. You know, I'll be there at night. I got you, man. And it was like, wow, this is the first time someone truly has the best intentions for me without something in return, right? And so I started doing what I do, right? Oh, I'm going to buy into the process. I started saying all the right things. I started using it, you know, talking with the right people, manipulating, right? But the whole time I was dirty. I was poking holes in the process. I knew guys were drinking on moves. I had a cell phone. I was over here jeopardizing my whole life for all these things that meant nothing. To what? Try to talk to somebody that didn't care when I was down and out. The people that didn't matter to me, right? And like we have a saying at Red Barn, what doesn't come out in the wash comes out in the rinse. And I ended up restarting the program. And I got everything that I deserved, right? I got a strong dose of humility. And I remember Nicholas kicking me out and telling me to go. And I told him I'm not going to go. That you're going to have them come and get me first. Because if I leave here, I'm going to die. Because I refuse to go back. I won't go back. And he told me, well, then you don't have to. What you're going to do is you're going to walk out that gate, come back and sit down, and whatever happens, happens. And I restarted the program. And that was a rough moment, right? All this time in, all this energy from people that cared about me, you know? And it was like, I really realized for the first time how selfish I was, you know? Like, it was so selfish. Like, when Brad had to re-interview me, it was like, this is the guy that has had my back the whole time. And he has to re-interview me because I wanted to be sneaky. I wanted to do all these things, right? And it was messed up, man. And I remember I went through my contract and I told myself, I watched everyone get leadership, Ethan get a blue shirt, everyone. And I'm just like, man, I'm never going to come out of this. And I told Nicholas, he came to me and he says, what's up? And I told him, this is who I am and this is who I'm always going to be, man. And he told me, that's a choice, you know? And I always told myself I was a victim of circumstance, right? But I realized now, like, I created every circumstance that I was in, every situation I was in. I was never a victim. I chose that lifestyle. So I told myself, you know what? I'm going to do something different because if I mess this up, I'm going to mess this up for the next Isaac that's sitting there hoping and praying for a chance, right? So I started buying in. It was a lonely road, You know, my whole first intern class, everyone hated me and it was okay, right? My days were spent playing guitar with Ethan, right? I'd go play guitar with him. That was it. Go back to the basics, work hard, have a good attitude, keep my head down, right? And I started to learn really what that meant. And over time, I started to gain trust again. Consistency over time equals trust. Before you know it, I was in a red shirt. The next thing you know, no one even cared about the phone. No one cared about the restart. No one brought it up. Right. The next thing you know, I was in leadership, and then I went to the thrift store, and then next thing you know, I was a house leader. I was the manager at the thrift store, and all that I realized, all that I did was the next right thing. Right. It was that simple. They would tell me just do the next right thing, and everything will come your way, and everything started to fall into place. I would have never pictured myself as the guy to hold you accountable for poking holes or talking crap. I was the guy that would turn the other way. I hated myself. Every time I looked in the mirror, it was like, there he is, right? And then over time, I became a house manager. I had I had my mentor, my friends, you know, there the whole way, and it was cool to be like, hey, I messed up, but that didn't define me. It was what I was doing moving forward, right? And then next thing you know, I'm in a black shirt, right? I'm here now. Like, and all that I could think about now today is like, how could I help the next guy get to where I'm at? Right? How can I help the next guy learn from my mistakes so he doesn't have to do it himself? And now I look around and everyone and every individual in this house, you know, like I'm happy for them. I like who looks back in the mirror. You know, I'm able to go into the same jail that I thought I was never going to walk out of. And I'm able to go in and help get people out of it now. And I'm less nervous walking in there than I am talking to you guys, right? Because I know it's the next right thing. And that's just what Red Barn has done for me today. I'm able to show up for my family, my friends. I'm able to go home and my mom's not worried about what's in my pockets, who's around me, what I'm doing, where I came from. If someone's going to bring trouble to her house for me, you know, and now everyone has peace. And it's for the first time in my life that I have genuine peace, right? As soon as I started finding my part here, as cliche as it sounds, in every little thing, then I was able to find my part in my past and finally make peace with it and realize that no matter what I did, that doesn't define me, right? That none of those years were a waste. They were all lessons. They were all opportunities, you know, and today now I'm able to come up and share this story with you guys, and I'm not ashamed of it no more because it helped make me who I am today.
I think I wanted to say thank you for being a big inspiration on the building the top. And I've been happy from my parents. You know, I'll never forget the first day when I walked into the room. And that conversation with that has helped me get through a lot of times when I just want to know what's the best advice that you can give,
Make it to your pillow, right? Like we don't hear it as much as we used to, but it's just make it to your pillow. You could have the worst day, right? And then over time it becomes moments as you're here longer, right? But when you wake up the next day, the best thing about Red Barn is every day is a new day, man. Like no one cares about what happened yesterday. No one even really cares about what happened 5 minutes ago. All they care about is what you're doing after. And just remember, man, if you just make it to your pillow and you just put your feet on the floor, everything's going to be all right. Just remain grateful. Thanks.
Now, what's your funniest moment that you remember being Red Barn?
It's probably my most humbling moment too. I got off my contract and my hair was crazy and I helped Thomas. Thomas got in the barber shop and he was cutting and he says, man, I'm going to cut your hair. No one else could cut my hair. And I was like, let's do it then. And he's like, I'm going to line you up. I got this. And I'm like, okay, Thomas. You know, and I loved the barber shop, right? And he comes in confident and he gets the front of my hair. And I'm like, okay, man, he's coming in strong, right? And then he says, and he takes off my whole sideburns. And I was just like, oh. what are you doing? And I look in the mirror and I'm like, whoa, what did you do? And then he jumps to the other side. Hold on, let me get it right. When gets to the other side, and oh man, everyone's faces when they walked in, it was so like messed up, and like it was funny though, and it was like it was humbling because I went and told Nicholas, look at me, man. Can we fade my hair? And he says, this, I love this for you, Isaac. Go about your day. Brad.
Isaac, when I did that second interview for you, I think that was one of the saddest. I hadn't been disappointed in someone as much at that time. You were supposed to go home with me that weekend. But in retrospect, you are from my perspective, you are not the person that made you who you are today. Would you agree with that?
100%. I'm glad that everything turned out the way it did. Like I look at me now, I look at Justin now and the things he does out there, and like the example that he gives to the house and the one that I do too. And I'm just like, man, we wouldn't be this if that was the case. We would have just been the same guys. If I was to graduate in 3 months, I would have went out and I would have done the same things, man. You know, like it made me who I am, you know, and I'm glad that it came out because it was able to allow me and even allow Justin, the guy who could never smile, to smile and have love for this place, right? And actually soak in what we have. And it was through that experience. Justin.
What was the hardest part of your contract? How did you push through it?
I think the hardest part was the look on everyone's face, right? Brad wanted to talk to me. Anthony wanted to hug me. Nicholas just wanted to tell me it was going to be okay, right? These are guys that I was really close with, like closer than most students were because of past or anything in between, right? And they couldn't because they knew that I needed this. That if they gave me the luxury of being soft and doing that, that I wouldn't receive what I needed. And I think what pushed me through it was Justin, right? Because honestly, right? Like he poured salt in my water one time and it was horrible. But like it was moments like that like got me through. It was moments when Nicholas told me, you know what? We don't put contracts together, but you and Justin are gonna work together. Not because you don't get along, but because we need you to help him stay here. And the whole time he would tell me, hey, man, if I wasn't with you right now, I'd be gone. If we weren't working together, I'd be gone, Isaac. But the reality was if he wasn't with me, I would have been gone. Right. But I just let him say his part. In my head, I was like, man, I'm thinking the same thing, right? Like if I didn't have you right now, I would probably boogie regardless, right? And it was that camaraderie and that draw off each other that, hey man, we got this. We can do this. You know, that's what pushed me through it. Roger.
What's your plans after you leave from here?
So as of now, all of my family on like my close relatives, they're all doing very well now. My brother did a lot of time and now he's clean and he has a business where he helps troubled youth. He has another side that helps people with disabilities and he has his business going, right? And but what I would like to do is I would like to go to school for barbering and I would like to go help my brother grow his business and go on that avenue with him. Jared.
What's your funniest moment over it there?
There's so many. I can't even begin to describe them. I think it was with Luis. He says, hey, I'm going to move this. And I told him, no, you're not going to move this. Leave it where it's at, right? Because Luis was the house manager and he was over me, but I was the manager at Thrift. So can you just imagine us two? You know what I mean? All day. No. He's over there, right? Like that's our relationship the whole time. And I remember he's like, okay, I won't move it. And I'm talking to a customer and I see her look behind me and I look over and he's dragging a whole cube full of dishes all quiet across the floor. And I turn around and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? It was hilarious, right? Because the customer was just like, what's going on? And you just see Justin H over there just shaking his head as an intern, like, what am I watching with these two, you know? it was a good moment for sure. Ethan.
Those times like when you were on, 'cause I mean, you did the hardest contract I've ever seen anyone. 32 days in the sun, just 100-degree weather, just shoveling rocks day in and day out. But after that, right, and then after the restart, and for the longest time it was you talked about no one trusted Isaac. Oh, where's the phone, right? All those things, man. But like, what motivated you to keep pushing forward, to not get bitter towards this place? But instead to use that to, like, let me show you something different. Does that make sense?
Because I think what, to answer your question, what did it was the faith of the guys that were closest to me, right? I thought no one trusted me. Everyone is going to be like this. I'll never be a leader. I remember telling Ethan, I'll never be a leader in this house now. I was about to become a crew lead. I was about to do all these things, right? I'm never going to have any of that now. Like, this is this, right? And that was the same narrative I told myself in my past, right? I'm never gonna be anything. So I gotta be a gangster. I gotta be a hustler. I gotta be all these things, right? And the few that were close to me that were like, man, this is something you're gonna laugh about from a year from now. You can be the example. You can be the best version of this because of what you've been through. And that added fuel to my fire, right? Like, if I'm not going to do this for me, I'm going to do it for the guys that I had to do a second interview with me. The guys that had to go and get their blue shirt without their best friend, right? Like, those things, it was like, all right, this is going to push me. And I realized for once in my life, like, I don't have to be bitter. I can be better. Like, that I deserve more. And maybe if I just try what this place is saying, maybe just try it, because I'm going to be here either way. What's the worst that's gonna happen? And I started to love myself. And next thing you know, they were handing me phones and the keys, and I was like, Leandro.
So, I just want to say that, the way you connected with us just now, I hope everybody felt that, because this is the Isaac I've come to know. And, asking you questions, figuring out a way has been inspiring. You're inspiring. I appreciate all the things that you do in here. And, I hope everyone does and sees how much of an asset you are here. I remember talking to you about how much enjoyment you seem to have, coming in and then going straight to the kitchen and lighting us up in there. I remember after I had told you that we came back from thrift, I go up and change and I come down and there you are, doing that again. And then you look at me and you see me, and you're just smiling, walking around, and that's what you do, and I like seeing that. I like seeing the leader that you are, so I do appreciate you and everything that you have to offer. What advice would you have for those coming up and soon to be leaders?
I would say, like, the hardest road is least traveled, right? When you feel like maybe you should say something and you don't want to say it, because I think of like guys like Logan Child. Like, I used to hate him. Like, you could not tell me anything. Guys like DeVilo, I used to hate them, right? And it was because they were always on my neck. I remember Logan told me, you're going to get 6 hours if your shoe's untied. So, like, my shoes were double knotted everywhere I went. And I realized that's what I needed, right? I needed someone that was going to hold me accountable, that was going to hold me to the highest standard of myself. And I just feel like at all times, we should always do that with each other. Maybe sometimes we can be more compassionate, more understanding. But at the end of the day, guys like us, we need someone in our corner that's going to tell us, stop, what are you doing? Because when we don't have anyone like that, next thing you know, we're doing all the same things that led us here. So just remember what you're doing, though. What is your intention? If you're going to become a leader, What is your end goal? Is it just to hear yourself speak? Or is it because you really don't want to see this guy go back to that lifestyle? And as long as your intentions are pure, then the rest of all that will fall away. Brandon?
Isaac, with your future and the plans that you have in place as of today, what's your connection piece look like for your future with regard to Red Barn, or how you gonna take care of that part of your life that we all know is much needed for us, guys like us?
I think with Red Barn, like obviously I'm gonna stay connected, like do the alumni groups and everything. But even more than that, I'm gonna be that thorn in your side that pops up. You know what I mean? On a tribe function or at a dinner. I'm gonna be that guy that when you interns or are a blue shirt and the new interns are in the house and I come in and I'm like, hey man, pull your hands out of your pocket. They're gonna be like, who's this guy? Right? Like that's gonna be me. I'm gonna be your guys' brother. I'm not gonna change. It's not gonna waver. I'm not gonna step back. You know, I'm not gonna forget where I came from. I'm not gonna forget what saved my life. At the end of the day, it was this, everybody in this room, this place. And if I'm to ever forget that, then I already lost. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I just want to say like thank you to both you guys. I think that was very admirable and just very honest. And I think it speaks volume, you know, to the magic that this place has, man. Like, you know, you see the change with these guys and their leaders, their house managers. He's talking about the keys and the phones and stuff, but it was just raw. And I appreciate you guys. Get another round of applause.